Hey, thanks, Aaron. Yeah, so here's the book. I always think a little beforehand about what I'm going to say before I start reading, and then Aaron does his little intro, and then it just completely catches me off guard, and then completely throws what I plan to say because I'm so like teared up. But this is the book. Um, it's kind of based in fantasy narratives, quest narratives, and the kind of things that I was reading and games that I was playing when I was younger, still sometimes now. And so part of the research for the book was kind of having the excuse to go back to some of those things I enjoyed as a kid. So I was due a regression anyway. So this first poem, Blackbirds, borrows an idea from the children's fantasy author Diana Wynne Jones, and there's a few threads throughout the book like that. Blackbirds, the ones we have brooding in the eaves, lost two more chicks. I found them, abject and pink, on the patio. There must be a moment where a hatchling clearly won't make it past this scrotal stage, their bodies jettisoned from the nest. Of every 10 eggs, only 4 will strike out on their own. I couldn't let the cat find them, so shrouded both inside a tissue for the outside bin. Recently, when I got too sick and chucked it all in again, Dad appeared at my flat. He collected the dishes and dirty clothes I'd left nestled and did a load of washing while I slept. He even scrubbed the bathroom and pulled a wad of pubes and soap and feathers from the plug hole. If I'm too far gone, he wipes it clean. He has this bulky chest in my old bedroom for storing important records, certificates, licenses, a recent bill or two. A crude false bottom hides a book of matches. With every major reset, a head ignites and one match burns down to black wood. How many in reserve? He's never told me, and I've never asked. Delicately balanced. The whole borough's gathered in the square for the latest execution. Those who are extra keen cling to their places at the front. A song like a hymn spreads concentric from a segment of the crowd. When the sun slips free from a last lump of white cloud, this skyward cheer combines with the spritz of summer fruit cider and SPF 30. Still, a few fringe spectators are critical. What a sorry state, they say. Such a state that public entertainment's in. Pleased it isn't them, though, with their neck bared on the block. I'm grateful, quite simply, to be noticed in a breathing mass. I can't see his eyes, but for definite, the executioner is focused on me. He's resting his axe at an angle like a minute hand nearing 5, and it's almost time for me to gather my things and head off. Yeah, so that partly was a poem that the first draft I wrote when I was not doing the work I was supposed to be doing at a job that I really hated. So there are poems in here about hating your job, so don't let my introduction make you think that this will only appeal to you if you're a big geek like me. I promise there are layers. So this is a long one, I will warn you, but if you don't like longer poems, then just think of it as a short poem in slow motion. It's got a run-on title too. At the School for Assassins, they had us studying piano drop montages for hours at a time, every gram of their bodies aching to return to ground level. The pulley snap, the flattened passers-by or few that was closest. An upright emits a wooden gasp, then bassy resonance dampens to hum to meet the tone of our breaths. Better students moved on to sharper concerns, the finer points of dagger upkeep, the 8 fatal strike points. We stayed in the projection room past nightfall, permanent imprints in the beanbags falling behind. We left with no diploma, but can judge if a baby grand wants tuning by the timbre as it smashes into asphalt. At a party full of old classmates, now contract killers of notes, us dropouts insisted on an icebreaker game of wink murder, your body percussion on the floor, a painterly pose with buckfast pooling where you let it fall. I hijacked the playlist, swapping Tom Petty for industrial techno, and after that is blackness. The last time we talked, I'd let the few miles between us elongate. We hid from tipsy acquaintances on the balcony. The moon appeared as a bright pebble dropped into a well to check for the splash that proves nothing's bottomless. Before I left to pedal back along a clear canal path, you held me long and hard. When Alex called, weeks later, the room went monochrome. Sounds muffled as if through felt. My voice dropped to a creaking register. I never learned which bridge exactly. Whenever I cycle beneath one, there's this jolt, and I get off to push a stiff half step, then its echo, till my blood stops buzzing. And if human falls like that, a piece breaks off the world. Like with each heavy rain, this rented house gets thinner. You never expected me present at the railing or as crumple zone below to cushion the thud. I apologize often, regardless, to your digital shadow for falling back. My messages remain unread, stack higher like scaffolding braced against the wind. A video of a cat you would have liked. That stupid song was playing in the taxi. I found a baggie, 2/3 white, on the floor of the cubicle and pictured you behind the stall divider saying, "Don't think about it." And it's good to hear your voice and feel that familiar weight in my hand. A path. For a while, I lived in the woods on the outskirts, a space to lie motionless and study the sky. But trees are possessed of this singular viewpoint, that every conversation loops back to sunlight, to water. I was flat in the dirt and gulping through a bland meal of lichen when a series of thoughts occurred. Somewhere, a bottle of ketchup is clinging to the last splodges of itself. A couple is sat round a sticky table cursing their respective managers. A dad and his son are in the garden setting off a rocket they built with instructions from the internet. I stood, then shook off my coat of moss, walked until I found a road and followed a bus route back into the city, re-entering from the west, passing below the railway. When a train rolled overhead, the bridge underneath sounded like the MRI machine, when we finally accepted it was time to assess any damage. The protagonist. The story goes that there's a sword up a gentle incline of hillside, and the power goes to whosoever plucks it from the outcrop where it's planted. But who's got that kind of time to spare to test the tensile strength of a prophecy? You say, "I'm so tired." I say, "Snap." I always say, when I grow up, I want to be a main character, at least a speaking part, Ha ha, not likely, not in this economy, but there's always a need for backdrop, especially trees. I've taken to wearing several black jumpers at once, ideally cable knit. I want to fall in with a crowd of philosophers. They'll tell me the gaps keep heat from escaping. Let the space itself be the protagonist. Let the table be headless and ready for guests. This next poem is a poem that I wrote for my mom. And it also borrows from another writer. It's got a bit of Gramsci in there, and is one of many kind of uncredited borrowings throughout the book. So yeah, I took a kind of loose approach to intellectual property, but I like to think of it that if you can read the book, you can collect these little references, and it's kind of like that's like your quest. So it's conceptual and not criminal. The midwife. She's 3/4 through, lugging swollen feet towards the finish line. To qualify, a student must deliver 500 kids. That's enough to rival Blackpool Tower if measured as a stack. Toast and strung tea in the break room and back to the next lot of labours, till it takes on the nature of machinery, an arcade pushing pennies. Lucky parents find their footing instantly, others luck down as if standing on glass, as if woken by a hypnotist to applause. We're all sleeper agents awaiting activation. The old is dying and the new cannot be born without a beacon to head towards. At home, her own baby is dreaming in his cot, but the hospital's third floor ward endures as a ribbon of light against the sky. Yeah, I wrote that for my mum's birthday, I think, last year, and she does like it, but she would like you to know that some liberties were taken with some of the technical aspects of being a midwife. So it's not 100% medically correct. I've used poetic license. Open wide, a little wider. We were misled by a sat-nav quirk, the circle sun at an unexpected inclination. The country's vestigial tail, you dubbed this snaking A road, still inevitably a wealth of luxury cars on hand, ready to elbow by, tinted window undertakers, cutting us up and getting a mouthful. Cunt, do your indicators not work, or are we invisible? The final word flashing in their rear view. And then we turned a corner, and on the hill opposite was a line of houses, a familiar seeming close in a town we'd never been. You said, who do you think lives there? And I knew then someone must, a street of someone's, each with their own purposeful face. I had to chew on it in a lay-by. The abundance, it won't all fit in my head. But that's the thing, you said. It doesn't have to. Somehow I'm on, this is my last poem. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for letting me be here and share this night with some brilliant poets and people. This last one's a sonnet. There are a few sonnets in the book. They don't all have 14 lines, and some of the 14-line poems aren't sonnets. Understudy. This again. My student has crammed his pockets with gravel and cannonballed into the reservoir, sopping and cold as a milestone on the bank. I take his word, this isn't about suicidal thoughts. He saw the telltale green and gold of treasure blinking on the bed. And isn't that what we're doing here? Sure, but wouldn't growing gills be covered during induction if that was all it took? Tomorrow, I'll pull him from a different water body. We'll sit in the sun getting warmer. Thank you.